And I don't think an attack is also a tax. I don't think the idea of taxing people that make over $500,000 in New York City is going to be the answer to our problems. I think that that's actually a wrong-headed answer to our problems. I think that if we're looking for tolerance and understanding, that actually divides the city. When you talk about a tale of two cities, you're talking about dividing people. I'm about bringing people together. As mayor, I would want to work with the people of Wall Street to make an investment in these communities of color that have been neglected for so long in our city, so that we can give an opportunity to these young men and women, 18 to 24-year-olds, and their fathers who are in their 40s, to work and to be educated and to lift them up as a city. And we can do that, but we have to do it now. And this is a great opportunity because the racial tensions that existed at the end of the Giuliani administration went away overnight when Bloomberg was elected. And he came in and he met with people of color. And now, over these years, because of stop and frisk and the demagoguery over the issue, we now have racial tension in our city again. I think that the most important way that we can show the people in the communities that are affected is by having the political will to mobilize investment and to give them opportunity. Thank you.
Todd, let me answer your question. My background is different than anyone else up here. I'm an entrepreneur who's built companies in the growth economy, in the sectors that are growing our jobs. I've also spent 15 years in nonprofit public service, particularly years and years in microfinance. I spent years working with Trickle Up and Young, two organizations that have created more than 2,500 small businesses right here in New York City. I've worked with communities in Harlem and Washington Heights and other parts of New York City. To answer your question directly, since no one's that may be willing to do that, Deutsche Bank, as an example, is a bank on Wall Street who has a specific program in microfinance. I would create a public-private partnership with banks like that, with others as well, to take real dollars, not just philanthropy dollars. These are dollars that these banks want to spend and invest in communities. We've started these 2,000 plus businesses, not in Midtown, not in downtown, not in small business incubators in Silicon Alley, but in the communities. These are daycare centers. These are food service businesses. These are businesses started by 1 or 2 people. 85% of them started by women. 85% started by women, all in areas of different minority populations. And so this is the kind of public-private partnership that we can actually make happen because we have been making happen. That's the area that I've been working in. It's an area of great promise. But we must now extend it to all 5 boroughs. We must make sure we have the inclusion necessary to make that happen so that anyone in any of our 5 boroughs can participate. I want to push us out to the edge and use community centers and other small business centers to make sure that anyone who wants to start a business in New York City can do so. And they'll be able to do so with microfinance in partnership with some of the banks you mentioned, because I want to bring their dollars and scale this up from a few thousand to tens of thousands to ultimately hundreds of thousands small business. Started by women, started by people in all of our communities across New York City to make sure that everyone has the upside in our economic engine. Thank you.
Thank you. For the remaining candidates, if you choose to respond on this one, Mr. Weiner, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Salgado, and then Mr. Liu.
Well,
in that order? Yes. Mr. Weiner.
Well, let me, is this, stand by, oh, that's the bad one. Look, one of the things that the financial sector can do is start doing their job a little bit better. There are big corners of our city, corners is really too narrow a way to put it. There are big sectors of our economy that are underbanked dramatically. There are large numbers of people, I would like to see the financial community take some ownership of the idea of helping people of lower incomes get away from these non-bank services that they have to use that are very costly to them. There is nothing stopping tomorrow, Chase, for example, or Citibank going into some of these communities that don't have banking services. You can go to some corners in Midtown, and literally the 4 most expensive pieces of real estate on the 4 corners are all operated as banks. And there are some entire zip codes in parts of the Bronx that you can go to that you're lucky to find an ATM outlet by those banks. So one of the things that I would do is encourage these financial services companies to say, listen, I want to try to help. I've proposed an idea to help both the undocumented and the banking community by creating an identification card that also works as an ATM card, also works as a service card for electronic benefits. It becomes like an all-purpose Big Apple card. It would be great if the financial services sector would stand up and say, we want to try to help with that. It would be great if they started lending in some of these communities, doing some of this microfinancing. I don't think you need government to push you to do it. Frankly, the Community Reinvestment Act, which is wildly underperforming, should be used to its fullest by these financial institutions. Look, Mr. de Blasio was right to a large degree. Some of the bad press and the bad sense you got was not from politicians just beating up on banks. It was from all of us standing and getting withering criticisms from our constituents about the mess that the country was in. I say this, the financial sector is a hugely important part of the backbone of our economy, but it can help with the rest of the body of our economy by being more supportive of small businesses, more supportive of women and minority-owned businesses. And frankly, you don't need a government program to do it, but if you need one, I'll institute one.
Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, obviously Wall Street is and continues to be a large part of New York City and New York City's economy. It would be great to see Wall Street, and that is one place the mayor can work along with Wall Street in leading them into greater involvement across the city of New York. When we look at our public school system, not just adopting a school, but getting involved in working in training and economic training and little things like financial literacy. That is incredibly helpful to our young people who don't have any sense of that. Internships, bringing them in so they get an opportunity to see early on what the financial system is, what that structure is, how our young people can be plugged into that. That's helpful. It changes the vision and the dreams of our children at an early age, hopefully, not just waiting until they're in high school, working with them earlier so they have an idea of what's out there and what can exist. Yeah, working across big pieces of the city in additional job training. I mean, starting to create that, an additional pipeline, and that's another place that City Hall can help coordinate between Wall Street and every street in our communities, and helping that job training. There are jobs in Wall Street. Everything isn't necessarily either a high-tech job or you need an MBA to be able to get that job. Is Wall Street reaching out? Is Wall Street working with people across the city of New York in chronically unemployed neighborhoods? Those are things that can be very helpful. And then as we look at small business and support for small business, there are some of them right now who are providing information, who provide some mentorship. I've seen, I saw one of the programs that Goldman Sachs does. Why isn't everyone doing that? Why isn't everybody working to provide that type of mentorship for small businesses, for minority and women-owned businesses, and then working along, in this case, with the city to create pools of capital to be able to help finance some of those firms and some of those small businesses. And, the one thing, after the financial crash, government dollars helped to bail Wall Street out. And one of the things, and government then turned around and created additional requirements that they wind up hoarding their money. We need that money to be loosened up so people can, in fact, so they can get small business loans, so that there can be additional financial support. All of those things they may not be the classic private-public partnership, but those are partnerships, and those are the partnerships that we need in New York City.
Thank you. Mr. Salgado.
Tolerance of microphones.
I'm on microphone in my church and over here. First of all, we have to work with the community college for them to be able to keep promoting program where students could work full-time and also study full-time. A lot of our young people, they do want to go to college, but unfortunately, especially among the minority, they have to go they have to start to enter the productive life right after they graduate from high school, because they have to help their parents to actually work with the struggle. We also have to give incentive to this big corporation to actually hire this young college graduate and make sure that they also promote scholarship to help our people to be educated. Also, we have to be very cautious when it comes to fraud, because our people, especially among minorities, they were the ones who got trapped in the bubble after the financial crisis. We have to make sure that we have a clear and transparent system for people to be able to have the American dream